So, no fanfare, no ads, no bullshit today and tomorrow. I am re-releasing two of the funnest podcasts that I had the privilege to do with Mr. Jim Mathews. Jim was a staple in Northern California skydiving, and one of the happiest faces you could ever hope to see at his home drop zone of Skydance. He was one of the greatest storytellers and funniest fucking guys I have ever met. He also happened to be one of the most accident-prone skydivers I've ever met, and anybody that called him friend saw him during one of his dozens of recoveries from accident and injury. Yet he always had a smile, he always had a happy outlook, and he always made us laugh. We lost him just a couple of days ago and something non-skydiving related. And I think myself included, a lot of us are still kind of in shock that he's gone. I'm releasing these two episodes back to back so that those of us that knew him best can just sit back and listen to some of his stories one more time and let him make us laugh one more time. And if you didn't know Jim, well, here's a taste of an incredible human being that I promise would have had you in stitches as well. Jim, we love you, and we're going to miss you.
Coming straight from the cockpit, it's another episode of Lunatic Fringe with the fucking pilot.
Ready, set, go. All right, we are back in the can with another edition of Lunatic Fringe Into the Void. I am the fucking pilot, and once again, via the magic of Skype, I got somebody to tell me some real stories. So tell me, who the fuck are you, and what do you do?
My name is Jim Mathews, and there has got to be a bunch of people right now wondering, really?
Right now, there's a bunch of people going, oh shit, I hope he doesn't tell that story.
Well, but I think there's enough people that are first thinking that, then thinking, yeah, but I have the video. And to all you people that have the video, it's usually bad. And I do have children and now grandchildren, so I will happily pay whatever ransom or whatever it takes to not have that video. I can throw some names out right now, but there are some videos that or pictures that every now and again someone will say something's on my Facebook and I have to run to a computer to get it down.
So we're not talking about golf that you were into. What was your sport of choice?
Well, it was skydiving, and I got into it completely by accident. It was funny because I was actually looking for a sport at the time, but not just a sport. I was looking for the camaraderie. I was going through a period in my life where I was bouncing all over the country for training. So I had this really interesting job where 12 of us were handpicked for this automation position that Rockwell had created.
Okay.
I was the only guy from California. So I had broken my back in '94, spent 2 years, a couple surgeries, and so electrical contracting was out. But prior to that, I grew up at North Star Tahoe. Daycare for us was skiing, in the afternoons. In 1970, they built North Star. My dad was an electrical contractor that got the job.
Oh, wow.
So my earliest memories are having skis put on my feet, and then daycare was we skied till the rocks ruined our skis, and then we spent the rest of the summer on the mountain.
Nice.
And then weekends down in the valley. And so I got married, had a kid, and 2 kids. One that just became my daughter by choice after 2 years that she was mine. She was 2 years old when I met her. And so I had this lull. And during that time, nobody would touch me for physical therapy. So I finally get someone that'll get me tuned back up. And I can't rope on horses anymore. I can't do anything, but I could ski. And all my buddies at the time were now getting married and now having kids. And we had this huge group of friends, but I missed that camaraderie. In fact, I'd actually gone out after all this training and going all over the country. I'd actually gone out and bought scuba diving equipment.
Okay.
So I ended up living in Davis, and I had to go to a conference after all this training. So 2 years of training, trying to think of something I'm going to have to figure out a way to do something with my spare time. Skydiving was not even a possibility or a thought, but I had passed that 1-800 skydiving sign on 80.
And
And so
this is in Davis, California.
Davis, California.
Okay.
So I'm in Atlanta. Fast forward to the first day there. You take your customer on 2 days of boondoggles, and we sit down. And first thing in the morning, he says, "I want to go skydiving." By the time we get there, um, you told a story about a guy who's all pumped and jacked and ready to go skydiving, and he starts to slow it down, and all of a sudden you were talking to Maz.
Oh yeah.
That's Mark. The closer we get, the more realistic it's getting for him. And then all of a sudden he's telling me, "You got to go with me. I can't go if you don't go with me." And I'm like,
And you got
now
to keep him happy.
yeah. So now I'm thinking, am I going to get fired? Can I get fired if I do this? And then I thought I better make sure at least this is going to seal the deal. So fast forward, they gear us up. We get in the airplane, and he slowly but surely is shutting down. But I'm ramping up. The smell of it, the folks, the camaraderie. I'm going to jump with Mike Gruwell, who I don't know if you've ever heard that name. He's a shooting star. Unfortunately, he's had a couple of things happen in the sport to him that are just tragic. But that's another story. But he made it really fun for me, and he also, I think, could tell that Mark wasn't excited about the jump, so he was going to really concentrate on me.
Right.
And he knew I had a lot of cash. So we have a video flyer. We have my guy, and we ended up jumping. I think it was a Porter, or maybe was that a Platus or a Porter?
Yeah, Platus Porter.
Yeah. And I forget about Mark for a while, and these guys are joking. They've got, a Hustler magazine, and they're passing around inside this thing, and they're having a ball. The gal's packing, and the whole thing was just fascinating. And I'm thinking to myself, I gotta figure out a way to do this. This is just crazy. No fear, no worry. It hits me though when wherever they were jumping, they had to, right on jump run, they paused because there was an airliner that was on final. So we had to wait.
Sure.
So the guy pitches the plane up, and they're holding the magazine up in the window, and we're just all cracking up. And that's when I glanced over at my customer, who's not laughing. He's not anything. He's a noodle. So he exits. I think that's fascinating to watch them climb out on the strut with the camera flying and everything else. And then we exit. And I don't know if I've ever told anybody this. Everything slowed down, and not for the reasons that everybody thinks. I have a primal fear of loud sounds.
Oh, wow.
So, which I've had to cope with as a kid. So boat racing or motorcycles or anything that was a sudden loud sound, my coping mechanism was to stop, slow down, think about what's causing that sound. So we exit the aircraft, and I'm fascinated with the fact that this camera flyer is right in my face, and all of a sudden it's getting louder and louder and louder. And that instinct kicked in, overload, too much noise.
Sure.
So for a brief second, I got to slow it down, tell myself what that sound is, and it keeps getting louder. And then now the force of the wind hitting me.
Sure.
So now that's a new feeling. So I had to calm myself down for that, and then pop. Everything is colorful, slow, and calm, and nothing else matters.
Isn't that cool?
And I had never experienced anything like that in my life. And I wanted to flip around in my harness and just geek Gruwell and tell him, "Dude, you've changed my life." So I can't do that. So I'm trying to tell the cameraman, I'm a new man, and
I don't know too many sports, honestly, that can do something like that. That's basically the effect it had on me as well. As soon as I was out the door, it was a whole new game.
I didn't want it to end. It seemed like it was going on forever, and the camera flyer's geeking me, and I remember looking at the horizon. I can tell you the runway numbers. I can right now. I can picture the entire thing. The greenness of the grass that time of year. The whole thing was fascinating. So the canopy opens up. It kind of hurts my back because remember I had that back injury, but the harness was tight enough to kind of keep it. And then we had what I found out later was a slider up swivel, and we kept going. So and I've had a couple of tandem cutaways and 1 or 2 high-speed miles. It never quite felt like that. We slowed down, and then we started to accelerate. I had no idea what was going on. Camera flyer went away for a minute, but then he came back to us. And he didn't have that same happy look on his face.
Right.
It looked like he was doing a lot more studying, and I could feel Mike grew on the back of me thrashing. I remember thinking, do you need any help? Because that's what I do. I fix it, right?
Sure.
So no idea what's going on. No concept that we're having any kind of trouble. Just this is a lot softer than I thought. Because don't we go up and he goes down and everything else? And then all of a sudden he finally flips over. And I remember him opening up and seeing the numbers 28 below him, which I'm pretty sure that's the number of the runway.
Right.
And then he did like a turn and a land. And then, whoomp, we open up to the shrill of a sound of what had to have been his dinner. Now I know.
Sure.
Going off. He says something like, God damn it. Oh, shit. And then hands me the toggles, and we're on the wrong side of the airport. He points us the right way in the wind and says something like, perfect. Okay, hold these right here. Don't move. And then boom, straps come off, and we just beeline it all the way back to the landing area. We've obviously screwed the cameraman,
right,
who I get to watch try to shred his gear and run with us across the ground, trying to catch up to film the landing. And we end up straight in landing. The other camera flyer for Elsie puts the camera in my face to film my landing, but even my guy's still screaming, how was that? From, 40 yards away. And then Elsie's on the drop zone taking a knee, totally covered in sweat. And I'm thinking, well, if I don't get fired for this, I wonder if he'll even be able to make the show. He looks like he's ruined. And so I had a lot of time to spend with Mike, just talking about skydiving, how to get into it. And he seemed put off at first until I started busting out $100 bills.
Well, yeah, that'll change somebody's mind, especially a fucking skydiver.
Because he had come, I guess, wasn't planning on him being there. The reason he let the canopy snivel that long was he didn't want to pack it. He's a rigger. And he knew we were fine. He just needed to get the damn slider down. And apparently that rig was famous for slider up problems. And he got it down. And then the camera flyer said something to him like, I didn't think that was going to come down. He's like, I got to figure this out. This one rig does this all the time. And the more they're talking and how calm he was fascinating to me.
And you were just roped in from right there. Well, and you actually ended up taking your skydiving career a long damn way from there. I mean, you did everything from shooting you shot for a 4-way team. You became a tandem instructor. Were you AFF instructor as well?
I did AFF first before I became tandem. I did AFF the week before I became a tandem instructor with Jay Stokes.
Wow. So you got your AFF rating first. That's a fucking tough rating to get. I mean, that's no joke.
But for me, it wasn't. And here's why. I was the first of our group of people to get it. And it wasn't, I'm not going to say it wasn't tough, but we had the pre-course with Keith who told us none of you are going to pass. But you have to remember from jump like 176 on, I was a camera flyer who'd been told, just keep us all in this little dot on your forehead. It wasn't even my camera helmet.
Right.
And so like Forrest Gump with the ping pong ball, I didn't know how my body made my face go where it was going.
Right.
But it did.
Yeah.
And on my very first jump, how I got to be camera flyer with kaleidoscope was not only I was paying my own way, that obviously helped. But from jump 176 on, I kept a heading and kept them uncomfortably close to the camera, which was unusual because I had figured out on my own on accident how close I can get to the burble. Took them out once, never took them out again until later when I started screwing around with it. But was shooting video that people had thought, wow, you've been doing this for a while, and I hadn't. We actually shot a video one time because people were having when we first got the pack, people were having a difficult time figuring out what's the best way to exit. They've mastered it now. I was just doing a standard camera exit off the step. And I had the benefit of the fact that my team was new enough to where they were still flying the hill relatively slow, but I was keeping them all in frame. And we flew the 182 over the top of the pack to kind of get a look down. And also other drop zones were getting their packs and having similar issues. Should the camera step be further back? Should it be further forward? And so they filmed me exiting, and that picture of how I contorted my body, my face is straight, but my body is completely twisted. And basically what I did is I kicked off the plane and turned my feet upside down. So they're flat to the hill, but my arms are kind of in a funky position. And I don't remember ever doing that. And for the next couple of jumps, knowing that's what I was doing on the exit, I ended up doing a barrel roll because I was thinking about it, and I had to stop thinking about it to get back into my normal routine.
Oh yeah. The first time I ever saw outside video of me shooting video, I was shocked and horrified. I'm like, oh my fucking God, that's what I look like? But you'd watch my video next to the outside video, and my video is just rock solid and not moving at all, and everything's in perfect frame, but I'm flying like I've got serious physical ailments going on.
And the funny thing about that was when Pat McGowan started coaching us as our coach, and why he took us on as a team. I mean, we became such good friends with Pat, God rest his soul. But he stuck me in the camera or in the tunnel, excuse me, to make up time when he would grab the team after they had all gone in, and he's coaching them up along the side of the tunnel, and I'm just in there filling time, and he'd glance over and then see something I was doing, and he'd also watch a couple of videos of me doing camera work and realized I can tune all that spasm that you're doing with your body out.
Sure.
And show you how to use your feet and your hands. I think in one of your videos you talked about watching some of the guys in the tunnel and they're making these moves that you just, I'm the same way. How are they doing that?
Yeah.
I don't see any body movement. They're just, their body's going that way, but what are they doing? And later I started looking at video of me skydiving, and you just see me looking, my hands go up and down, one hand goes up and down. And also when I started doing larger jumps, people could fly underneath me and I could anticipate that burble just as quickly as I could without making a sudden move, because that sudden move translated into the video in your head.
Sure.
And so your sudden jerks. I mean, I had a horseshoe malfunction at Paris one time, and if you watch the video, you can't tell that I'm trying to remember what do you do with a horseshoe from 10,500 feet down to about 6. I'm thinking, okay, so I remember the picture was over my head. That's a horseshoe, but what do you do? Because I got the D bag between my legs right now, but I'm still filming the jump. You see me a little bit looking side to side, and I'm thinking, so I know I don't cut it away yet. I better make a decision quickly, because it's, altitude's your friend. And then I was, okay, 1, 2, 3. So I pitched, and then I remembered just in time that the D-bag's between my legs, but not in time to avoid the inevitable. Oh, for Christ's sakes, I couldn't breathe.
Oh, I bet you couldn't breathe.
I left the brakes in. I was happy that the parachute opened. But I left the brake stowed for a good 3 minutes until it came and went. And if you're a guy, you know what came and went.
So that's actually a good spot to segue into some stories from you. You are, the fact that you're walking at all, but the fact that you're getting up and walking in a straight line and you're healthy and you're doing stuff, and that the only reason you're not still a super active jumper is because of your kids, is fucking astounding, because you are the single most broken skydiver I've ever met. Like, when the new movie Glass came out, I thought of you first, because I'm like, if I know any fucking Mr. Glass, it's Jim fucking Mathews.
Every time I opened up a parachute magazine and saw the statistics, I thought to myself, I am the reason you guys have low numbers or high numbers, because every 300 jumps on cue, I broke something. But someone made a comment to me one time, I've never read an incident report about you, but I've also seen you in more contraptions and braces and crap, and heard stories that, where's Mathews? Oh, he's in the hospital.
Yeah.
He'll be there for a few days, or he broke his, he tore his ribs open again, or he's got this bone sticking out over here. But it never, just like there was never a moment in the sport that because I saw many people have that, I'm done. And I always just kind of like when I would see people quit drinking, I would think, God, I'm gonna have to do that someday. But I never had that moment where.
No, well, dude,
Jump 12. I fibbed so bad that I almost lost my leg. I was in the hospital for 90 days. And then when I was out of the hospital, I had a PICC line and a boot. A PICC line is for antibiotics. I had a severe infection, a blood infection, and I made my jump 13 with, that's how I got the red and white jumpsuit. I talked Milan into taking me for a skydive, and we couldn't damn near wear the boot that I had, this big contraption on my leg. So we went and busted one of those, those like surveyor stakes.
Yeah.
We busted one of those in two, and we duct taped it to my leg. But there's no way I could walk into the team room like that. So I think he or somebody went into Action Air and bought a big baggy pair of red and white pants that would fit over that.
Oh, my God.
That got me into the gear room to get geared up for jump 13 for my recurrency, with a PICC line in my arm that we duct taped, because it's intravenous. So that was jump 13.
Well, I don't know how many times I've seen you with crutches or some type of external fixator or something fucking going on, and you're talking about when you get back in the air. And most people would be, laying in a Barca lounger with multiple broken bones after. Well, let me just ask, how many skydiving related surgeries have you had now?
I've never really thought about that. That that one, I almost lost my leg. In the 90 days I was in the hospital, I had surgery I think it was for the first 2 or 3 weeks, every 36 hours, because I had compartment syndrome, which was because the break was so bad. It was a tib spiral fib, and then the ankle was destroyed. My foot was actually backwards when I hit the ground, so it had destroyed the ankle. They were going to try to fuse it, and then by day 4 or 5, compartment syndrome is where everything swells.
Sure.
So they have to then fillet your leg. And I got really lucky. I don't know if you've seen people that have, I think Peak Alley and some others have had compartment syndrome. They're missing a big chunk of their tissue.
Sure.
I was lucky to keep a lot of mine. So the untold number of surgeries for that one.
And that's just the first one in skydiving.
Oh yeah, no, I shredded my shoulder a couple times. I hurt my back. The back I never had to have surgery on during. And you have to remember, I was a pretty good drinker, so I was anesthetizing pretty well. And that was the weird thing when I quit drinking, was to convince my doctors that I wasn't drinking because of my back pain. Because if you, and you know better than anybody else, I didn't take a lot of pain medication for the back pain, but alcohol is a wonderful anesthetizer.
Of course,
so at the end of the day, I don't think I ever said to anybody, my back's killing me, I need a drink. So, and that was just untold. I mean, I tore my mediastinum, which is the tube that goes to my left lung, and cracked my sternum on a Sabre 2. Back up. That shredded leg on jump 12 was under a 270.
God.
And do you know why that happened?
No, why did that happen?
A brand new coach asked me if I wanted video on like my second or third solo. And he said, let's bang out a coach jump and I'll do video. I came in to land short of the student field, trying to make sure I could see him, so I was on video and forgot about the flaring part.
Oh, yeah, that happens.
So I'm making sure he's running at me with his camera helmet, and I'm like, this is going to be so cool. And all of a sudden, as I'm looking at him, I'm almost eye level and haven't flared yet. And when I do go to flare, I punch the toggles between my knees,
right,
and bring my feet up to my chest. No PLF, just in a panic. And my left hip dislocates. And I Joe Theismann my right leg.
Oh Jesus!
And then he puts the camera helmet down. It's still rolling, and I'm begging him, turn my foot around. Listen, look at me. Turn my foot around. And he's like, and you can hear the guy in the van from the student field. Don't touch him. Don't touch him. He's almost about to turn it around. I'm like, it hurts. Turn the damn foot around. I can't reach it. Turn that foot, the one that's backwards. Turn it around.
Oh, no. Oh, God. Yeah, that's no, that's not good. That's not. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Now,
yeah, the mediastinum break was the sternum break was I had seen the plane landing, looked at the sun coming back from Fairfield, wearing khakis and a button-down shirt. Chris Hackler was flying, or maybe you were flying. No, I think it was Chris Hackler. And they were doing it was Jenny and Marcus were doing a jump with Milan. I think Galley was on the load. They were going to reshoot the video for the, here's a look for the classroom.
Yeah.
And I went to the team room, unlocked it, grabbed my rig, gear checked it on the run, wearing Allen Edmond leather shoes, khakis, and a button-down collared shirt. Just came from work. Pitched my wallet and all of my shit right there on the area that we would all wait for the plane.
Right.
Signaled to Hackler, hop and pop, threw all my stuff on, and didn't pay attention. He took me to 6,000 feet. And so I left the plane and thought, I can't see it. I don't have any goggles. I don't have an altimeter. I don't have anything. So I thought, I'll take it a little bit. I don't want to ride under canopy too long. And I went, okay, that's about right. Pitched the parachute. Don't remember a thing. Blackout. And, it turned out the slider was stowed. Whoever had packed the parachute the night before, and I don't want to name names, but had either left the slider stowed. I couldn't move my arm, so there's no way I reached up and unstowed or stowed the slider. So that thing opened hard, blew 2 end cells off of the Sabre 2 on the right. When I came to, I'm looking down at the gun club and immediately reached for the D handle, just thinking get fabric over your head, and I couldn't move my left arm, and I couldn't catch my breath. And the damnedest thing was I finally decided I got to do something, so I reached up and I grabbed the right toggle, pulled it down. It was just nothing. And I thought, okay, well, I'm along for the ride. And for whatever reason, it put me down very gently right next to the P's. The wind was just right. I did like 3 little circles, and then a gust came up, and it laid me down on my back.
You're just not supposed to be dead. That's just
And
what
but
it is.
I couldn't move. And Galley, he's the first one to come down, sees me on my back next to the P's, and for whatever reason, he does a 180 or a 360, whatever, for his swoop, and thinks I'm laying down for him to swoop me. So I'm signaling help, right? He thinks I'm signaling swoop me. I have no idea. So the next thing I see is tennis shoes go by my face, like he's trying to tiptoe my nose. But then Milan lands, and you see Milan in the video looking over, and he's yelling, "I'll be right there. I'll be right there. Hang on," because he knows, he saw it. He knows something's up. And he's figuring I've augured, so I must be just tore up.
Sure.
And then Jenny and Marcus land. Marcus comes running over, and he's like, "How bad are you hurt?" And I'm like, I just can't breathe, and I can't feel my arm, and my chest is really bad. And so they took me to the hospital, and when you walk in clutching your left arm,
that's
screaming,
bad.
opening, they think heart attack. And then all this air had filled up in my chest, so I was having trouble breathing because I'd torn that mediastinum.
Oh, Jesus
And then
Christ.
my first words were, "How long does it take for that to heal before I can jump?"
Of course it was. Of course it was. Well, besides the fact that you have injured yourself more than anybody else I know in skydiving, and continued not only to keep just as much enthusiasm for the sport, but keep going back for more. It literally was, and it wasn't a running joke, it was just a running theme, is Jim hurt. You wouldn't even...
It's funny because if I'd have been able to add, my dad's a pilot, my younger brother's an airline pilot. They always said if you could have added power on 10 or 9 out of 10 of those injuries, it was all landing.
Oh yeah.
Even when I started flying and took some flying lessons, apparently I would get to a certain point where I stopped flying the aircraft. I'm sure you've heard that term.
Oh yeah, that's pretty common.
I've set it up for landing, and then they're like, "You've got 3 feet to go. Stop. What do you mean? Fly."
Yeah.
I've had the instructor reach over and add a little bit of power and maneuver. I'm all ready to go. And if you look at the video of me landing, I'm looking in the wrong way, or I'm looking at somebody else, or I've flared too early. I mean, there's a funny story where I'm doing my tandem rating with Jay Stokes. He says, for whatever reason, he had a brand new rig, and he had a brand new parachute that was a little bit smaller than all the other tandems that were going in Sigmas. I don't remember, but it was like a couple square feet smaller. So he said, "Don't get this rig muddy, and don't get this canopy muddy." But we had come in, and we had sort of gotten into the pattern a little bit too soon. And so he said, give me the, they're all going to go downwind. We don't want to go downwind. So he grabs the toggles from me on like jump 4, makes a couple of swish moves for the P's, and then realizes, no, we're downwind.
Oh.
So he hands me toggles back, and he says, "Okay, well," and he also had this like 3-stage flare where it was like 1, 2, 3, the flare.
Sure.
We're coming into the P's. I glanced over at the flag, and downwind landings was the only thing that would upset me. If someone set the pattern up, Carl, and got the effing new guy. We had a guy join our team, and he set the pattern up wrong more than I did on my own. And that was my fear of downwind landings. And there I am looking at the flag, and I'm thinking we're going to downwind. And I did the 1 stage, 2 staged, and that canopy popped 25, 30 feet straight up in the air.
Oh.
So I punch it, wrap my arms around Jay Stoke, and yell in his ear, "PLF, PLF." And he just turns his head and yells in my ear, "You fucking think?" And we just boom. And I took him all the way around and got underneath him, and he just laid there, and he said, "Don't move. I heard everything break." And I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, "Just hold on." And he unclicks himself, and he's like, "Everything broke." And I'm like, I feel good. And he's like, "Either that or every knuckle in your body just popped," or, I mean, the crunching sound.
Sure.
And I thought, well, I'm failed. That was the end of that.
Well,
it's like the AFF. I thought I failed. I mean, he comes out to do our AFF. I think there was 8 or 9 of us, and I was the first to pass. And again, it was because I had only really known how to belly fly. So what do you need to make a good AFF instructor?
Yeah, no.
Anticipate what's about to happen.
Yeah.
And so he had his buddy with him that was going to screw up, and I had filmed the other people doing their trial run, and then they're going to challenge the jump. So I had anticipated. I started to see the pattern of what they were going to do.
Sure.
So I knew this was going to be the jump where he's going to flip over on his back, or that's going to be the jump where he's going to try to get away from me, or he's going to give me a look like he's coming towards me, and then he's going to just disappear.
Sure.
Backwards. So I could anticipate all that like it was the team in front of me.
Which is awesome.
So I was on them instantly all the time. The only thing I was having troubles with was remembering, if I'm reserve side, do I pull? What are my signals and all that kind of stuff?
Sure.
But he had been dumped out on his reserve on the AFF course like 3 times at Davis. And so that was our only rule, was don't dump out Jay Stokes. So he pulls me aside and says, hey, I'm going to need someone to do video the rest of the week for the rest of these guys. Some of them are struggling. Some of them are going to quit, and some of them aren't going to pass. You're close. I think you've got the 2 jumps under your pocket that you can challenge. Why don't you go ahead and do the last one, which is the one where he flips over on his back and you got to flip him back over.
Roll him over. Yep.
Right. And so he's going to hose me on exit. He's going to hold on to the airplane and ditch me. And I had seen him do it to 2 other people. So I anticipated that. So I got a good purchase underneath his leg strap.
Took him
and
with
when
you.
I left, he had nothing to hold on to. Unfortunately, it dislodged his D handle. So we get off the plane. He gets away from me. He's backsliding, but I'm right in his face. Then he turns to his side and tries to track past me. I turn and I kind of reached for him, because you were allowed to grab him if it seemed like an uncontrolled spin, but I didn't touch him because I was right there with him, sort of sliding. And then he flips over on his back, and that D handle is just waving in his burble. And it was a real D handle.
Right.
Flew up, grabbed him, grabbed the D handle, held it in his face. And I'm looking at my altimeter, we're at like 7,500 feet. And it's the only time I've ever heard anybody in free fall. He yells, and I show it to him. He takes it out of my hand, and I let go, and I start to back away. And just as I'm backing away, he yells, "Finish the fucking skydive!" And I could hear it, or at least I thought I heard it. I saw the mouth movement. Fly back in. He's holding onto his D handle. Flip him over, pitch him, and then we land. And I'm thinking, God, the one thing he told me not to do is kick out his reserve. At least it didn't come out. And we land, and he says, well, that's good. Let's get you right back on the horse. Let's get you back in the air. I don't know where you caught the handle. You must have caught it on exit. You tried to get cute when you drug me off the plane, so maybe you grabbed it then. And then I'm just dejected, and I'm walking towards the team room after getting all my stuff in the hangar, and I walk over, and he points at me with that point. The point. You're an AFF. And I thought, I'm up? No. Congratulations, you're an AFF instructor. All right, Marcus, you're up next. And I'm like, wait, back, what? That's it. I'm it. I'm, and then I didn't even have a chance to really enjoy it. And then the rest of the class looks at me like, you fucking asshole.
Hey,
I didn't even have 500 jumps at the time. I think I had to go do about 4 more pop and pops that afternoon to get
just
caught
to
up
get
to
the
500.
rating.
Yeah.
Oh, fucking hell.
And then he calls me and says, hey, I got a cancellation. You want to get your tandem next week?
And then you PLF him after oh, Jesus Christ. So, what's funny about your career is you had so many lows, but you had so many highs to counteract exactly that. I mean, for every shitty story you've got a fucking hilarious one or a wonderful one. Quite a few of which I was lucky enough to be there for some of these.
Well, to give people a little perspective, I lived at the drop zone.
Yeah, you did.
So, with less than 100 jumps, I move into the double wide.
Living on the drop zone.
And living on the drop zone, living the dream.
What was the name you guys gave for climbing up to the beacon?
Oh God, you've heard about that story?
Yeah.
So that was the beacon number.
Yeah. So
which for years I thought it was the beaker number. Because I don't know why, but
so now we're talking about, for everybody listening, we're talking about the airport beacon, the flashing red beacon light, red and white or green and white beacon light that's flashing on the airport. Look at this, a fucking pilot just used the wrong colors for the beacon. That's horrible. Anyway, the beacon on the airport that notifies pilots of where the damn airport is. So you got to tell us.
So. I don't know what the occasion was, but I think I had got, first of all, Milan Cook. I love you, brother. He's my skydiving master zen. If Milan says it, it's code. If Milan says it, it's the way it is. If Milan says altitude's your friend, altitude's your friend. If you screw up, Milan pulls you aside and very gently says, that was, his Dutch accent, that was stupid. So don't do that again. And Milan, to this day, we see each other all the time. We keep in communication. You know, he comes up and duck hunts once a year, maybe twice. I mean, we stay close.
Sure.
And so I think I had just gotten my coach rating. There was something, and we were sort of all celebrating. And he said, "What I'm slaughtering his accent, but he says, you got to go tonight when it gets dark. You've got to get your beaker number." And I said, "Well, what's that?" And he goes, "Well, you climb up the airport tower and you ride the beacon." So I think by that time we'd had I think we'd gotten the golf cart. I immediately drive down to this thing to give it a look. And there's no way to get to the ladder because they've got it for idiots like me that can't get to it. They've got it set up to where you can't get on it.
Right.
And this tower's not that tall.
Tall enough.
And so, yeah, tall enough. And so I look at it and I'm like, that light's going around. But from the ground, you can't tell that the light sticks up over the catwalk a good 4 feet. So from the ground, it looks like, oh, shit, even if you fall off, you fall into the catwalk around. Right. You know, it's a skinny little tower that goes up. Anyways, sun goes down. We're all standing around the bonfire and that light, green, white, green. And he looks at me and says, "Are you ready?" And he's apparently this has never been done at this drop zone, but he's got it just, let's see, would you be number 19 or 22? Or we got to figure out which number to make it official. So I think this is really a thing,
sure.
Right? Pete Bonzer overhears the conversation. He wants in. And I think Marcus Tetral decides, Marcus, if I'm wrong, decides he's in. But I think that was the trio, which is actually the story trio that you wrote about.
Right.
So we get down there, and I, of course, have to go first. So I climb up the thing, and that's when Milan announces, we backed my car up to it, climb up on top of my Expedition, and get up on top. This thing's going, wow, wow, wow. And you can hear the heat coming off it. And it has these aluminum fins on these two giant opposing floodlights. And the heat coming off this thing is awesome because I'm freezing cold. And then Milan says, "You have to do it naked." Okay. So I don't know why, but I'm butt naked faster than you could say, "Take your clothes off." And I didn't just set my clothes down on the catwalk. I pitched them off over the side. Everybody's in tears. Video cameras are rolling. All I'm looking down at is a bunch of red lights looking up at me. And I get up on the catwalk and I'm trying to time this to where I'm going to hop on this thing. It's like a saddle, right? It looks just like a saddle.
Right.
I'm going to hop on this thing. There's really nothing to hold on to. And then somebody said, you got to go 3 revolutions. And I go 1, 2, hop. And immediately smell the burning flesh, which is my scrotum, gluing itself to the fins.
Wait.
And I immediately think, okay, pain threshold. How long can I take this before I have to hop off, right? Because this is now I see smoke, and so I reach down with one hand to try to kind of get it underneath the scrode, which then burns the knuckles, and someone yells, "That's good," or something like that. And you know, in the movies, you're laughing, but you know, in the movies, there's always that scene where the guy falls off the cliff and manages to grab the branch, and you're like, that's physically impossible, right? I dove off the light, but because the light's taller than the catwalk, I missed the catwalk.
Oh, Jesus.
with my left arm. Remember, my right shoulder's all jacked, so I do everything with my left mostly. So I jump off, and the hand misses the catwalk, and now just that just like with Loud Noise, that slow motion response kicks in, and I'm thinking, naked, contorted, dead on the ground, or if I'm not dead, arm behind the head, I got to get who am I going to convince to pull my legs at least out from underneath me and cover up my junk so I'm not too embarrassed before I either pass before the ambulance guy gets there, and all of a sudden my other arm hooks the catwalk in such a position that it kind of catches in the crux of my elbow, which leads my hand to grab it. And now I'm hanging from the top part of the catwalk by one arm. And I think Paulie, or maybe Brian Brownlow or someone on the ground is screaming, "Hold on." And I was like in my brain thinking, oh, I'm holding on. I mean, I'm holding on. And then there was a pause when they realized I wasn't going to fall. And, I remember that, still being in that slow motion and thinking I'm going to live. And then I got a hold of it with my second hand. But now I have to figure out a way to get, because I'm not strong enough to pull myself up. I'm hanging, and this thing hangs a good 4 or 5 feet away from the tower that holds this thing up. So
Right.
I'm going to just hang here for a minute and let the pain in my scrot stop and between my legs and figure out how I'm going to save my life. And then it turns out what you're supposed to do is put your T-shirt down over the top of the light before you get on it, which explains why when I threw my clothes over the slide, Milan yelled, "No, well, okay."
So,
And I've unfortunately had to show that scar. A lot of these stories, somebody will overhear them. I remember one time I was telling the story about the hawk, the bird strike that kept whatever flying over. I mean, we had video of that thing hitting me 15, 20 times.
Yeah.
And I'm telling that story, and some guy from Byron or whatever who had just been there finally raised his hand and said, "All right, enough with the stories. There's no way any of this crap's true."
Oh, yeah. No.
I think I bet him a bottle of tequila, took him to the team room and showed him video of this bird bashing me over and over, flying over other skydivers in the drop zone to get to me, to smash into my camera helmet. For whatever reason, it hated the color of that camera helmet, and that shut him up.
Yeah. Oh, no.
I've been at the playing field when someone's telling the story about, ask Mathews about his branding, and they're like, "Oh, no one would ever do that." And okay, well, drop trowel.
Yeah, of course.
See these big wide marks right there. That's what happens when you.
God.
We ended up doing it again.
Of course you
with
did.
the Aussies.
Of course you did.
We did it with Brad. This time I put my T-shirt down.
Yeah, it was probably a better idea. Now, before we.
You get me to tell this shit.
Because it's amazing. Before we go to
anybody out there who's going to go skydiving, do not climb up your airport's beacon, because this is one of probably 50 stories that should have gotten me kicked out of the best place to live on a drop zone.
Oh man,
I don't know how many times I had already packed in my head thinking I'm gone.
I'll tell you. Well, I'm gonna get you onto the story that you have to recall for everybody, because it's the story that turned out to be one of my most popular articles yet. And there are actually quite a few people who have questioned me that don't believe that this story actually happened, don't believe any of the lead up to it. They think I just made it all up with this, I guess, amazing creativity I'm supposed to have. And I try and tell them, no, if you knew the guy I get this story from, you wouldn't doubt it for a second. So, without any further ado,
Mike decides to take his Humvee down the runway, flip it, and eject some people and cripple himself. And that was just a terrible thing for people to have gone through. And the range of injuries from everyone who had piled into that Humvee was, Brownlow got ejected practically standing, and some others, and I think they were competing pretty quickly soon after that. And so a couple of guys got hurt. His girlfriend was the second worst injured, and then of course Mike had severely broken his neck. And so that happened, and then AV on a fluke, they took Pete on a base jump. And it was funny because the week before that, AV had jumped Bullards Bar Dam, and he had apparently, for whatever reason, gotten caught. They had actually caught his ground crew, and he came walking up. Now, I know Bullards Bar Dam because I grew up in that area, and I had worked at Bullards Bar Dam, so I got his rig back from impound from the sheriff, and he was leaving the country. So, and AV's a tough guy to get to know. If anybody ever met Abner Tesori, you have to understand this guy was, Israeli military, difficult gentleman to get to know. And Pete was a relatively new, at least in my mind, base jumper, and he had just gotten his rigging ticket, and so he was really doing well, and so he was starting to fit in better and people and earn a lot more respect. And the only issue he had was he had this swooping deficit where he was still trying to iron out canopy flying.
Okay.
And so I get the tandem rig, or I get the base rig back for AV. He's told his sister, "I'm coming home next week. I'm not making a base jump." They decide last minute to go out on a moonless night to the
was Auburn
the bridge. Auburn Bridge.
Yeah.
They switched positions, put Pete in the middle for some reason, and AV had by then at least in my mind, had gotten a reputation for going low and really enjoying that low. And I think you've talked to a couple of other people on the one of your most inspiring podcasts was a gentleman that was in the wheelchair.
Yes, absolutely.
I got so angry when I listened to that episode, and then I'm choking up right now. That pissed me off that AV took his life after hearing him overcome that.
Sure.
So they swapped positions on the bridge, and AV's to the side. If anybody's jumped off Auburn, you know that if you're too close to the side, you're not exactly aware that you're not the bottom has just drastically come up to the bridge. I guess it's more of a gorge.
Yeah.
So AV takes it low. Canopy snivels just a little bit on his opening, and he hits under line stretch, and they can't find him. And then, he absolutely. I was in the hospital first. One of the first people to get in the room with him, and he grabbed me and was like, didn't want anybody to see him like that.
Sure.
The first time I'd ever seen him on any kind of painkillers. And he said, I two things. I don't want my girlfriend or anyone to see me like this. And he said, if they can't fix this, I'll take my life and you'll know why. I just want you to know. And he kind of shook me when he said it. And it shook me up.
Sure.
I could see it in his eyes. And I remember thinking, everyone says that, right? I mean, come on, AP, just Jesus. So we have so more, you have like a surgery coming up, another one, and we're going to send you back to Israel. And I had to extend his visa because he was supposed to leave that Wednesday. So it was traumatic. And so we all end up back at the drop zone, and Pete Bonser feels terrible. Marcus is feeling terrible because they're both on that jump.
Sure.
They had gone through the traumatic experience of trying to, do we all bail to get the hell out of here, or do we go find our friend?
Sure.
And so we get completely smashed and came up with that pact.
So to just for those that haven't read the article, so this was all over a very short period of time. You had the car accident on the drop zone that left one person paralyzed. And a bunch of other people injured. Cut to the base jump, which you're doing kind of to let off steam because everybody's still upset over this car accident and all this stuff and still figuring it all out. And now your friend AV is now busted up and potentially now also paralyzed. And now you and two other guys are commiserating back home, getting shitty ass drunk, talking about those events. Yeah.
Right. And you have to back up a little bit. This was every night when I got home, I would cruise the double wide on the golf cart and cruise down to the airport to see if I could strike a conversation up, if the bonfire was going, if there was a light in someone's tent, if there was a trailer I hadn't seen. I'd go down and say hello. And if they needed booze or food, invite them down to the double wide. But always could count on either Marcus or Pete or somebody being down there.
Right.
So, and it was usually around our team room. So we're huddling up at the team room and we were shedding tears. We were shaken up over Mike. We're shaken up over AV, and Marcus and AV were close. I had just become very, very close with AV, and then Marcus had taken Pete under his wing to kind of get him over the hump of the get along with everybody, because Pete had a way of rubbing some people wrong and some people loved him. And him getting his rigor ticket was a lot of push by Marcus and others. And so, but then we got really, really drunk, and this conversation comes up where you start talking about what would you do if it happened to you? And around that time, we find out that it is permanent for AV, and it's going to be permanent for Mike. And then we find out his girlfriend's suicidal, and we find out the impact this is having on all these people. And that's when the conversation turned to, okay, well, if it happens to one of us, here's what we're going to do. And that's where we came up with the idea of, we're going to pull the plug. And so you'll find an opportunity to let everyone get in their goodbyes and make sure there is no fix. Jim, you're in charge of making sure there is no medical possible correction for this. You're good at that kind of shit. Marcus, you'll figure out, how to, kill the power to the hospital if you have to. But then the conversation just kept going and going and going, and Pete takes everything a little bit too far. And so pretty soon we all but took a knife and cut our hands and like in the movies, blood oath.
Right.
And so Pete kept saying, look me in the eyes and tell me this is real. Tell me this is real. And finally, almost Marcus had to say, okay, this is the moment where you put it back. Yes, we get it. We get it. We will, if it happens to any of us, that's the pact.
So you've made the pact that if any one of you fucks yourself up irreversibly, the other two are going to pull the plug.
Is blood bound to assess the medical situation, let all the families have said their goodbyes, find a private moment, and end that person's misery. This is on a Saturday night. Okay. Fast forward 7 days, we're standing in a room with Pete, not just crippled, but unable to communicate. He's got a break so high up in his neck that he's lucky to even be alive. So this isn't something that we talked about 6 months ago. This isn't something that we had in the back of our minds. This was something that Marcus and I had talked about a couple of days later. Funny. I can't believe Pete took it so far.
Right.
Pete reminded us on like that Thursday, don't you fuckers forget. And we're like, okay, whatever. And then I'm in Santa Cruz. And it was weird. Every time someone gets hurt in our sport, I get a sick feeling. I know this is going to sound stupid, but I'm in Santa Cruz with my family, and I had earplugs in because I went to bed early that night, and I had my phone on silent. And I, for whatever reason, cracked my eyes open, and I saw the light of my phone, and my heart sunk. Because every time I seemed to leave the drop zone, I would get a call saying something went wrong or something was busted or somebody was broken.
Sure.
So I saw that light, and it was Ryan Arnold on the other end. So I knew it wasn't him. And then you think your teammates, and then you kind of think, and I know this sounds terrible, but you just kind of prioritize in your head, please, 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 please.
Sure.
And you're hoping it's somebody from some drop zone somewhere that you've heard of. And he says, you got to come home right now. Bonzers, he might not make it to the night. And so I didn't even pack. I just walked down to my car. I think about halfway to my car, I realized I need keys and tennis shoes. And I drove back from Santa Cruz to a double wide full of people grieving.
Sure.
And so, Pete, if you ever hear this, you have no idea the impact that had on people. I mean, you have to imagine people that you didn't even know, people that were just there for the weekend for the first time, are all just crushed because apparently the people that had seen it, the people that didn't expect it, the way it all happened, it really shook everyone up. And it was the really first on-site skydiving accident they'd had in a while. And it was traumatic.
Sure.
And so, the pack's the furthest thing from any, this pack between Marcus and I and everything's the furthest thing from our minds.
Sure.
So we set up vigil in the parking lot. And for about a week, it seemed like a week, maybe it was less than that. My job was figuring out medical care.
Right.
And Lisa Larkin's job, once again, like with AV, was figuring out how to get his family here.
Right.
Marcus, I think, had been pulled aside by the grandfather, who shook him up and said something to the fact like, you should have left him for dead. Look at him now.
Right.
So that sparks in Marcus's mind. He's crushed. I've never seen Marcus tear up, but now I'm seeing him tear up for like the second time.
Sure.
And so he's just a mess. He does that, just Mathews, and so we finally find ourselves after 3 or 4 days of going in one at a time, and little by little, he's finally stable enough to kind of see us. And I remember the two of us ended in going in after a good 4 or 5 hours of shots and drinking and partying in the parking lot,
Right.
all in Pete's, all in support of Pete.
Of course.
Pete, that was all for you. And then we walk in the room. He closes that curtain. That's when I first thought, what's he doing?
Yeah.
And then that's when it hit me. Are we going to have that talk? No. And then the nurse popped her head in because, we're in ICU and she pops her head in to say, is everything okay? And dude, Marcus turned to me and I knew that look immediately. And we're hammered. Like you said in your article, that nurse, how she did not know we weren't. I mean, you could have lit a match in that room with all the oxygen and everything else. And so the next thing you know, we're staring over Pete. He looks at me with those eyes like, oh, hey, buddy, and looks over at Marcus. Oh, fucking dudes, that's so good. Yeah, it's you guys. And then all of a sudden, the eyes started darting back and forth
Because he's thinking the same fucking thing you are.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, my. The Reapers are here, and he doesn't even really have time to react because Marcus is already, is it like TV? Where's the damn plug in this thing? Look at all this shit. Yeah, Mathews, you know more about this stuff than me. Is there a plug or a button or a, and I'm looking at Pete. Pete's, he, like you said in the article, those eyes were so damn wide. I mean, he's probably thinking, if they look away, I might get a chance to just wet my eyes for a second. But if I get it wrong, and then we're even screwing up the signals. Is it once for Wait, Marcus, stop talking. Is it once for yes or two for no? Mark? Okay, Jim, you ask him. Wait a minute, Marcus, just shut up, Jim. Just go figure out how to shut it off. And so this is, this whole thing's going back and forth, and we didn't get to really hear the full effect of the story until, this is another time I probably got dumped by a girlfriend.
Well, wait, you're killing people. Did you pull the plug?
No, no, we couldn't find it.
What? So wait.
We couldn't find the damn plug, Pete.
So
because the plan, I think if we'd have found it, I don't think we'd have pulled it.
You don't sound so sure.
Marcus was getting pissed. Where's this goddamn plug? Mathews, you know this shit. Come here. Is this one the green one or can you imagine laying there, not being able to move or communicate?
No.
And you can't. I at the time he had this means of blowing for the nurse, and he told me he was trying to get his lips out to reach that goddamn blow tube. If he could blow the tube to get the nurse in here, this might at least slow down the inevitable. And that's when he said, I just finally just took a deep breath and relaxed and thought, it was my idea, But to have him tell the story, because we started doing these fundraisers, and I took a knee next to his chair, and we all knew what we were all thinking, and we all started laughing. So Marcus has taken a knee on one side. He's showing us how we can move his finger a little bit. I start laughing. He starts laughing. Pete starts laughing. He goes, "You fuckers." And then he tells the story from his perspective.
Oh my God.
And it was so much better than your story, my story, all the stories, because he had to go through all the emotions of what that must have been like.
These two fuckers are about to kill me.
And all the two people that would do it, these are the two. Marcus will make Jim do it.
And I guarantee he
Jim
could
will do it.
And he could smell the booze on you.
He told us later it was disgusting. But at the same time, he was like, I almost wanted a drink too. But he's like, and I know Marcus will make Jim do it, and Jim's gonna figure out how to do it, and then he'll do it because he respects Marcus that much. He'll just do it because Marcus said to, and he's telling the story. And then we realize his brothers and his extended family are all standing around listening to this, and you can see some of them are just not amused. And we're dying laughing, and it's only something that skydivers can understand.
Yeah, no, it's I'll tell you what. I've had a few people that aren't jumpers that don't find any humor in that story at all.
Any of these stories.
Yeah, none of them whatsoever. They just don't find any humor in that story. And I made myself laugh maybe about 2 or 3 weeks ago, sitting on the couch, just randomly flipping through. It was either Netflix or HBO, and decided to push play on that DiCaprio movie, The Revenant. And in The Revenant, after he gets attacked by the bear, he's got the one guy that just wants to fucking get out of there, but he's promised to take care of him until he dies. And he's just telling him, all you got to do is blink. All you got to do is blink and it's over. And all I could think about was you and Marcus drunk standing over this poor guy's hospital bed.
Well, I saw that movie with my daughter, and that scene, I wanted to push pause at the movie theater, because my daughter and I have become really, really close since I quit skydiving. I thought we've always been super duper close, but I didn't realize that they had built this protection mechanism in that something's going to happen, because something's happened to everybody he knows. So and he keeps getting close. He's had 5, I don't know, he keeps having these close calls, but he keeps running right back to it. So there was this, and I didn't realize they had done it. And for those that want to get into the sport, this is something to grapple with too. You're going to need to overcome that, because your love of the sport is going to be stronger than at some point your family telling you what and how horrible of a person you are. I mean, you'll go through all of it if you really, really want to get into it. But if the common thread is you need to just calm them down and tell them how safe it is. But I think you had one of your podcast guys on that was saying it's not that safe, but it's safe enough. And when people ask me about tandems, I tell them we've ironed it out.
Yeah.
If it's going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong. And unfortunately, some stuff has gone horribly wrong. And then we learn, right?
Yeah.
But like you said, you can get in your car, and there's so many more variables that could go wrong.
Yeah. Well,
But yeah, during that scene in that movie, I wanted to turn to her and share that story. And then after the movie was over, I wanted to share the story and realized I can't.
No.
Because all it'll do is just make her look at me like, who are you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, every skydiver at some point's got to cross that bridge where they decide, is this me? Am I going to keep doing this? Sometimes it's an injury to themselves. Sometimes it's an injury to another person. Sometimes it's a fatality. I've had quite a few reality checks in my time in the sport, but there's that one and only time you've got to walk across that bridge. Fuck, I'm in this for the long haul. This is who I am now, regardless of what happens around. And I tried to explain that to another non-jumper friend of mine who was like, man, I'm glad you're just flying and everything, but, you keep losing friends and you should just get out of it. My response was, I'm going to lose friends for the rest of my life. My entire social circle, everybody that I know, everybody that I'm truly close with is in some way involved in skydiving. I will continue to lose people whether I'm in the sport or not. So I'd rather be in it with all these amazing people. And it's a little bit different.
Every time I see an Instagram photo of you, like you, and you said, you're only seeing the best. Everybody has their highs, their lows, their angers. I've seen you so angry you're going to kill a packer. I've seen the highs and the lows. I love the fact that I could live vicariously through your Instagram page or your web page or these stories, but I've seen you struggle with it. I've seen you struggle with a lot of things in skydiving, but again, do you remember that one summer that you spent living in a hangar, and I think you got your W-2 or your 1099 or something, and you were furious because you, in one sentence, you're telling us about it was the best experience of your life because you got to build your own aircraft from scratch. Which, by the way, putting a PA system in an aircraft for you was probably. If I had to pick one thing Dean likes having most, I don't know if you have a PA now where you can say, "Okay, jumpers, here we go," or you don't.
I don't.
Is it killing you?
No. I'll tell you right now. Every fucking pilot that I currently work with just started laughing their ass off because I've been bitching for PA systems for 6 fucking years.
How could they not give you one? That's the best part of it. It's better than the green light coming on, and some of the things you would say were hilarious. Of course, it was distracting as hell. I guess, yeah. For a student, you don't want your student suddenly going, "What did you say?" But yeah. I mean, you lived for that mic switch, and that was also you picking up on every chick on every tandem master's lap and every AFF student. I mean, geez, I can't tell you how many phone numbers you got from the girl leaning over me to tell you her phone number when I'm trying to gear her up. It was fascinating to me. But yeah, you remember the year you got your 1099, your W-2, and you were furious at the low dollar amount, but in the same breath telling me it was the best year of your life.
Yeah, well, it's
and you were like, I'm gonna sit my boss down and tell him this is unacceptable. God damn, that airplane's freaking cool, man. We built that thing. I was there for the motor, but still.
Yep. Yeah. No, I remember that year very well. Well, that's kind of the catch-22 in it all, though, right? I mean, when you decide you're going to go be a skydiver or, a skydiver / jump pilot or whatever, you kind of just naturally assume, all right, financially, I'm just going to take it in the ass. But it's more for the lifestyle. Well, it still doesn't make that paycheck any less painful when it shows up and you go, oh, fuck me, man. I was really hoping something might change. But clearly I loved it because I kept right on doing it. Nothing has changed on that end. Absolutely nothing.
And that's why I tipped. I mean, I walked into Paris Valley for the first time on our very first practice session with Pat McGowan, and I only had the 2 rigs. I'm not the best packer in the world because I've always paid for my pack jobs. And I walked into the packing area and said, I need a packer, and nobody's head looked up. No one knows who I am. And I said, I usually tip $10-15, and before I could finish the sentence per pack job, this girl's head lifted up and popped up her hand, and I said, per pack. And then she stopped what she was doing and came running over. And then I could never go near the drop zone without, she would find me. I mean, I might not be there for 2 years, and I'd show up at Paris and boom, she's in my face. I'm your packer, right? I'm your packer? Oh yeah. Because she's going to make $150 a day or more, and I'm going to tip her at the end of the day. And then people would pull you aside at lunchtime. So, hey, if she gets busy, I can sub in, or maybe tomorrow you can kick some pack jobs my way. Or so I was, and again, that's like the story that you and I were talking about earlier, where you could not figure out who was packing your parachute, giving you those horrible openings. I never had that problem because I was stuffing $20 bills in the risers where no one can see them, and they were fighting over my tandem rigs to pack. So I was getting the best packer in the hangar.
Well, you are by far the biggest exception to the general rule in skydiving, because I always viewed you as a full-time skydiver that did other stuff I knew nothing about. I mean, I knew you had a job, and I knew it was a successful job, but it was just Jim the skydiver, Jim the tandem instructor. Jim's going to go out and shoot videos. Jim's going to do a hop and pop. Jim's always jumping, and Jim lives on the drop zone. But I didn't think of you as the six-figure guy. There's no fucking six-figure-a-year skydivers out there. It just doesn't. Not that are full-time jumpers, but you were, and you.
Oh, I remember we were sitting at Denny's with Maris from Lodi Byron, and Maris. I do know her real name. We called her Maris. You know Maris from Frasier, the sitcom Frasier. So Maris is the fictitious wife. We nicknamed everybody, and her nickname was Maris. And she was sitting in for Wiz. Wiz couldn't come down with us, and so she's jumping for us. And she starts talking to me and asking me about me. And then I said something like, she's asked me, where do you live? Because Colin lives in the Bay Area and Dawson lives in Roseville. And I said, I live at the double wide. What? Well, I live at the drop zone. And she said something to me like, oh, my opinion of you has just completely changed. And I said, well, Maris, you have to understand. And she had no idea why we called her Maris anyway. And we all just busted up. But when people would find out that, my job was flexible, I could work from home. The reason I always had a computer set up was because I was always programming, or I was always writing. I mean, just so people know what my job was like creating a good analogy for you was if you were a pilot and glass screens were just coming out for cockpits, I was the guy that you told, I need this gauge here. I need this gauge here. There's an awesome documentary about the new Gulfstream coming out. It's all touchscreen. There's no pushable buttons on there, and how the R&D went into all of that. And that's what I did. I created touchscreens and computers and ways for guys to sit in front of a computer and visualize and automate and collect data and automate a process, whether it be bottling beer to pulp and paper to oil and gas to drilling to anything that packaging. And then when you have that access to all that data, you need to know a little bit about all the stuff you're talking to. And that's what I did for Rockwell.
Sure.
And so
you did all this stuff, but you had this second fucking badass life.
And no one wanted to hear about any of that crap, so I never talked about it. So no one really understood, how does this, is he a trust fund baby, or how does he always seem to, it was funny. I remember after being in the double wide like 3 or 4 years, Ryan came up with a plan. Like, he called me on the way home, and my typical MO was on a Thursday, tried to get Friday off. I couldn't get Friday off on a Friday, go to the store, call Ryan, what do we need? We had a code, basically full bar, whatever. And so I'd spend $300-$400 on booze. And that was, just to make sure I got enough booze, because everyone knew that the double wide was packed full of liquor. And so he said, hey, this time we're doing a little experiment. I don't know how the idea got started, but we're going to see who actually comes into the double wide, sees no booze, and goes to town and buys some and comes back, or just disappears. And I thought, brilliant. And then I remember thinking, why? Who gives a shit? Okay, well, whatever. It was funny.
Oh, I bet it was.
The people that would walk in and say, hey, what's going on? Hey, you mind if I grab a beer? Sure. You have to, I don't know what's in there. And they'd open the fridge, long pause, come out. Well, hey, I'm gonna head down to the drop zone, and I'll see you in a little bit, And then others would like, you don't have any beer. Oh shit, I'll be right back. And then they'd come back with 2 12-packs, and it was a shitty thing to do to everybody. But
oh hell no, I think
funny.
It's fucking funny as hell.
It was,
and funny. It would be exactly something that Ryan would think of.
Oh,
you know what? My greatest memory of Ryan took place in the double wide, and it's every time I think of Ryan, besides the fact that he's got this infectious smile, was one particular time.
Incredible roommate I've ever had.
Oh, no doubt. But you'll remember this as well, because I and an entire room full of people in the double wide wanted to strangle him to death. Only once. We're all sitting in the double wide because you guys had the dish for satellite. And we're watching the final episode of The Sopranos.
Right.
Everyone at the drop zone is a huge Sopranos fan. We have all piled into the double wide to see what they're going to do to Tony. Is Tony going to prison? Is Tony going to die? And it's this huge build up to the end of it. And at the end, of course, the screen goes black. Nobody has any idea what's going on. It's dead fucking silence in the room for at least a good solid 3 seconds. And then it dawns on everybody, they're fucking ending it. And all I can hear is Ryan Arnold laughing his ass off.
Because that's to him the funniest damn thing. That's just his sense of humor.
Oh, my God. Oh, and I get it, but we were all horrified. Everybody is screaming, no, and having this huge fit and waiting. We're just watching as the credits are rolling, and he is just laughing.
And that chuckle where he kind of kicks his head side to side.
Oh, yeah.
Kinda...
Oh, it's fucking amazing. That's the...
He was enjoying the fact that all of you guys were so let down.
Oh, yeah.
He probably gave two shits about the ending, but to him, that was...
Oh, he didn't give a fuck about the show. I think he'd even said he wasn't a particular Sopranos fan. He just watched it because he wanted to see everything. And, my God, yeah.
We were so close as roommates. We would the arrangement. Remember, we moved in not knowing each other that well at all. I mean, all he knew was I was the idiot that always tried to get on the manifest before I had a rig packed or I had my shit together. Or I mean, I credit a lot of my etiquette at the drop zone to him, saying, "All right, don't knock on the window until you're packed. You've got a rig. You're in all of your gear. You know what? Come to the window geared up next time.
Right.
All right. What's your name again? Okay, guy. I just next time I see you, I want to see you with. I'll give you a gear check. And this went on for a while, So, but then as we became close as roommates, we also became very distant as roommates. We could go 3-4 days without talking, and I just because we knew we had our personal space because that place was small.
Yeah.
I had the master bedroom with my own bath and he had his side of the house. And then we had that common space, which we I wouldn't let anybody stay without talking to him. He wouldn't let anybody stay without talking to me. We had the people we knew that we could say yes because we knew the other people wouldn't, one wouldn't care.
Well, and then you'd have the amazing double wide nights with like the rock band where we'd all fucking sit around, get hammered drunk and play rock band. All the fun stuff you'd do. Dude,
if those walls could talk, the thin walls. And then we had some amazing roommates.
Oh, yeah.
Billy moved first. Then we had Pete Galley for a little while. Then we had
you had me for about a month.
We had you. We had Charlie Brown whenever he was in town.
Oh yeah, the cast of characters that came through that place and the stories that came through that place. There's actually there's 3 other fucking stories that we got to hit on. 3 that I have to have. All right, so the 3 stories, and there's three fucking amazing stories in no particular order. I forget what his name was. He was think
of the people right now thinking, "Oh God, please don't be me. Please don't be
me."
Me.
Oh, there's a few of them. So he was the son of a father and son pair come out to learn how to skydive in Davis. That were, you see, you already know where we're going. So they were. What's a nice way to put it? They were very country.
I have thought about this. If you were to ask this, how would I describe the father's just the father? I mean, they owned a refrigeration business.
Yeah.
The father's just dad. Smoked way too many cigarettes, wrinkly old skin.
Yep.
You go for the description of the son, and then I'll see if I can figure out a way to fill that in.
I don't even know if I can. I'm not sure.
Remember, I jumped with him. I stamped his A license.
Yeah.
So I know what the guy smells like, right? So I know this guy well.
Oh yeah, no, he was I'm trying to be nice about it. He was definitely a California cowboy. Redneck is probably the way to put it. He was country, hardworking, fun-loving, and he was a complete moron.
Okay, so not country in the sense of Stetson.
No.
Stiff-collared, colorful shirt. We're talking cowboy with steel-toed black boots that had that cowboy tongue. Massive belt buckle, but it wasn't a rodeo belt buckle that said Mack truck, or it might say Peterbilt. Jeans looked like they'd never been washed, but some kind of a baseball cap with the cap was set too wide because the big mop head of hair that he had that looked like it had never been washed on his head smashed all into that. And when I geared him up, that hat he said had to stay on. So imagine the helmet goes on over the hat, right? Yeah. And then or flannel shirt, dead of summer,
Yep.
with a t-shirt underneath, and then he's got a leather vest sometimes. Sometimes he'd have a jean vest.
Yep, that's pretty much how I remember him.
So kind of cowboy farmer, emo slash, I don't know how to describe it, but I just remember thinking, is there enough tape in this to try to tape up all of his boots? And he always had these weird.
Well, he had all the hooks and stuff on the boots and all that, but somehow this guy and his dad come out to learn how to jump, and he manages to get through his AFF. And
all with me.
Yeah, so he does everything with you. He gets himself licensed and ends up joining in one evening at the bonfire. And everybody's been drinking, everybody's shooting the shit and having fun, and somehow the conversation about what to do with malfunctions and such got brought up. And
that's as I'm walking to the, just back up a little bit.
Yeah, please.
There was a lot of discussion on whether to stamp this guy's A license. He was absolutely incorrigible and you couldn't spend much time with this guy, but he always brought tons of booze. Never in a cooler. It was always in like a big bucket or a big blue tote or something full of ice and beer that he thought we liked, but he was a Budweiser guy and he made you know it. He had these crazy ideas and crazy stories. He was the guy that everyone, you always sort of found him by himself, wandering to the group that was wandering away from him.
Right.
And so when it came to stamp his A license, he'd done it all right. Nobody was going to stamp it. And it became incumbent upon me to make the decision. And so I conferred with all the Zen masters and everyone else. And it was Milan that finally said, has he done this? Has he done this? Has he done this? Well, what are you waiting for? And I just said, I don't know. How do I teach him the other part? What's the other part? The etiquette, the getting along. I mean, this isn't, if I stamp this guy's license, this guy's now, I just gave him a license to bonfire and hang and you know, this.
Yep.
I really struggled. I struggled with this because now I kind of want to take him under my belt, or take him under my wing, how do I get him to shed some of that unnecessary gear when he gets his jumpsuit? Because you don't need to put a jumpsuit on over your entire
right,
persona, I guess you'd call it. You don't need to wear your hat under your helmet. So we stamp it the day I stamp it, right? And then I have to go pitch a couple drugs and do some team stuff. And I walk up to the bonfire with my student who freshly stamped.
Yep.
And then you take it.
Well, no, I'm just leading you into the story. So all I know is that the conversation came around to malfunctions, and he had some rather unique opinions on what to do if he had a mal.
Well, when you walked up to the bonfire and you see a guy like that surrounded by Team Jank and Guano and some other AFF guys and some really, really unapproachable high-end skydivers, I mean, swoopers and stuff, you think he's either telling the most interesting story or they're trying to get him to jump in the fire, or they're trying to get him to go get in his truck and try to jump the runway. I mean, you know what I mean?
Right.
To see someone like that surrounded by that kind of talent.
Sure.
And as I'm walking to the bonfire, it may have been you that looked at me with that grin, like, you got to hear this. So I walk over, but I also noticed some students. And he's well, if I remember correctly, he was saying he no longer was going to jump with an RSL or a ADD.
Yep.
And that he didn't want to pay for repacks. So he was his solution to that was to just take his belt off
in free fall
in free fall. If his main didn't open up, cut it away, and then lasso high voltage wire.
Yes.
Am I getting that right?
Yeah. So his plan was, if he was having a malfunction, he didn't want to have to pay for repacks, so he would cut away, remove his belt in free fall, track to the nearest power lines, and then lasso the power lines with the belt.
And the reason he had all this talent around him was because they were saying, well, what happens if your ADD goes off? Well, I'll have had that removed. Well, what about your RSL? Oh, I'll have that removed. You wouldn't just disconnect it? No. I don't need that. Okay, but the low power lines, what if they snap? Oh, then I guess you're right. Good point. I'd go for the bigger power lines, the big high voltage ones. Well, they're like 40 feet off the ground. Well, yeah, then I just let go and PLF. I mean, from 40 feet. You don't think I can do it? No, we don't think you can do it. And that's when I said, okay, guys, hey guys, there's some students around here. I think I don't remember who I pulled aside, and I said, hey, this is funny, but we've got some students listening in who don't even know what RSLs are yet, and didders and okay,
right.
Jokes. So I pull him aside, and he's tuned up. I hadn't really seen him this drunk. And he says, I got an A license. I know you're my instructor, but I have an A license. I'm like, oh, there it is.
Yep.
Yes, yes, you do. But not for long, buddy. And that's what I thought at the time. But anyway, so he starts to tell me the story, and I start to explain to him, hey, look, here's a teachable moment. There's some students around, and hey, where are you going? You don't think I can do it? You don't think I can do it? And he goes right for the hangar. And I remember some people started to say, go, whatever. I turn around and look at everybody, and they're like, oh, shut up. Mathews is going to get pissed. He's going right for the hangar. And at the time, you had to know how to get on top of the hangar.
Yeah.
There's only one way to do it. And he went to the wrong side. And so he's trying to climb up like the little side where there's nothing there. And he's hopping and trying to get his boots onto the bolts.
And for those that don't know this hangar, it's a Quonset hut. So it's one of these half circles.
Quonset hut. Right. And and so I start to think he can't, he's harmless. He can't get on the damn thing. And I see him standing on the golf cart trying to jump, and he slides back down, and he tries stacking some stuff up, and he can't do it. And then he disappears, and I just kind of forget about it. And little by little people are kind of thinning out. And then I don't remember who was left, but we're throwing some more wood on the bonfire. It starts to rain. It was drizzling. So that thinned out the herd a little bit further. And then I heard, hey, look, or hey, check it out. And as I glanced to where I'd seen him last, he wasn't there. But I saw a body go through my field of vision. I mean, so I'm looking eye level at the hangar, and I see this figure go by. And he jumped. What would you say that is? 30 feet?
Yeah, 25, 30 feet.
25, 30 feet. Straight body in a pike position. So if he'd hit the water, it would have been perfect. I remember just that, and then my instincts slow down, and I reach for him, right? Like somehow that's gonna whatever. I remember the smash of the beer that fell out of my right hand, the sound of whoever was standing next to me blew beer out of their nose. Some people behind me in slow motion, you heard this, what or whoa, and then the sound that it made when he hit, because right where he hit is gravel.
Yeah.
But there's like this lawn area, but he hit the gravel. Yeah. And it was a puddle. So there was a splash. And then because he had hit straight like that, it shot him back up in the air a good 4 feet. And then it blew all of the air out of him. So he made this disgusting sound. And he bounced straight back up in the air and kind of landed on his side. And we ran over, and I'm trying to hold him down. And he's making this just horrid sound, gurgling sound, which I've heard before. So there's some internal injuries. And his legs are just
bent.
Noodled.
Yeah.
And I'm once again in that position of, oh, well, I could probably get most of my stuff out of the double wide tonight. And then I think Ray will let me come back and get the rest of it. Yeah, I'm kicked out. Yeah, this is definitely going to get me kicked off the drop zone. And he starts to, I'm yelling 911 to, I want to say it was Brett. I can't remember who was with me, but I'm yelling 911, call 911 right now. And I'm trying to hold him down, and he starts saying, no, I refuse care. I'd never heard that term before. Right. And then whoever I was with said, well, if he says that, we don't have to call 911. And then people just scattered, right? Everyone came over to see if there was anything really good to see, and then scatter. You've never seen anybody disappear from a drop zone. Not even the bonfire was empty. Right. Nobody wanted to be associated with this, what just happened. And then he gets up on all fours and crawls to his car, and somehow and as he's crawling, I can see that one leg is not quite following along the straight, or isn't. And then I can see that one leg's longer than the other, which means that it's gone inside of itself. So I can see that one, it's bad. It's pretty significant injuries. He's coughing and gasping for air. So I'm getting ready to do CPR. And I had the peace of mind to reach in his pocket and get his keys. And then I handed the keys like an idiot to whoever was with me, and he convinced them that he was just going to sit in his truck, but it was cold, and he was going to run the engine. As I'm walking away from the car after convincing him, sleep in your car. I'm going to check on you in 20 minutes. Look at me, sweet, promise me. I hear the car start up. Heater comes on. The other guy comes walking over, and I can't remember who it was. He says, he'll be okay. And then all of a sudden you hear the car gun it. I don't know how he did it, but he gunned it right into the field straight away from the back of Manifest.
Right.
And the car just sunk in the mud. So now he's stuck in the mud. So not only is Ray going to come to work the next day and find a guy crippled dead or crippled in his car, but the car is now up to axles in mud right out in front of Manifest.
So not only
now
not only does he not PLF off the top of the hangar, but then when he does manage to get in his car, he basically crashes it.
So we find him, he's getting out of his car, and he's underneath his car trying to dig the mud out from around his tires, coughing and gasping. This goes on for a while. So I go get my car, I pull his car out. As soon as I get it onto the road, we lose track of where he is. He hops in and he speeds away.
No.
And he drives south. He misses the turn, ends up in the ditch, but somehow gets it back up on the road, overcorrects, just misses the other ditch, and disappears into the night. And that was the last we saw him for about a week. His dad showed up the next day to ask, what had happened. He ended up taking him to the hospital that night. He was in a wheelchair for a year. He came back, I want to say 2 or 3 weeks later, and showed up at Action Air asking how they could rig up his wheelchair with a parachute. I wasn't there for that.
Oh my God.
Ray had me do like a full write-up of what had happened, and I never actually finished it. And then,
because he was worried he was going to get sued, as I would have been. Holy shit.
At some point, we realized the guy was too much of a oddball to sue anybody. Yeah. He just wanted to get back in the air. He kept coming back. He in his wheelchair, and it was tough, man. I felt so bad for the guy.
This is another one of those stories that only a skydiver or someone truly twisted would find that funny. But I'm practically in tears through part of that, because the guy didn't die. But
how many AFF instructors out there right now going, I can't wait to meet the idiot that gave this guy an A license?
Well, just the whole, I'm going to take my...
I didn't see that coming. Well, he never talked like that or acted like that during any of his jobs.
Because if at any point during teaching emergency procedures to someone, they suggest that their belt would do a better job than their reserve, that's a pretty big fucking red flag. So...
And he was dead serious.
Yes. Hence the jumping off the hangar, because I'm sure I can PLF from the pipe.
he in one of those nights he showed up at the drop zone when no one was around. I saw him at the and he was banned for life from the drop zone. It wasn't a fight on site. It was a get him off the drop zone on site. His dad came back and finished up AFF, and I think maybe got his B license, and then kept lobbying for his son to come back. But just to wrap it up. He came back a couple of times when Ray wasn't around, really gut hurt and couldn't understand why when he got better he wasn't going to be allowed to jump. I heard later he actually showed up upright but in braces, ready to go back through the course. I mean, you think my dedication, there's his dedication.
Yeah, but that's a whole nother level. All right, so far, all the stories we've told have been pretty grim. Funny, some of them, but...
Well, clear this up. How far into the suggesting of any of the shenanigans were you? Were you participating?
No. I was just standing back watching that madness. I'm
going to take your word for it, because depending upon your mood, I could see you... Oh, okay. So that might work, and then you could.
Oh no, I think by then
you do have a little bit of a sense of humor, Dean.
I think by then I would have been the first one to go. You're a fucking moron.
I had to walk up, probably the one that said, "Hey, there's students around here." And...
no, man. That one I played zero part in for sure. Now, the other two stories I want to go into are. Nobody dies in these stories. There's no blood involved in these stories, but they're fucking funny. One of them, and I'm sure you've got to remember this. You had a rather excited woman in the airplane. You remember this one?
Okay. So, yeah. So this is the French orgasm,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So, okay. I became a tandem master to be like you, dude. You were able to crush me. I mean, I think I told the story in the beginning before you and I started this. I walked into the team room. You were gearing up the prettiest of the two girls, and we were screwing with you that day. Neil walked in and corrected the two students. You got the one that wasn't. I'm not going to say one was uglier than the other, but you had clearly chosen your type, and that wasn't the one you were on the board
Right.
with. And so you were very put off with the fact that suddenly you were being swapped, and I got the really, really your type one. And you had a quip for everything, and yours was that looked like I'll have both their phone numbers before you can get her geared up. And then your new student who'd after you given all your spiel to this other cute one, so you've already got her locked. You're doing it to the new one, and she's nervous, and she said something like, "Look, I just want to let you know you don't have to be nervous. I have like 5,000 jumps, and plus I have plans tonight. So you might be part of those plans, but I'm just telling you, I have plans tonight, so we're gonna be fine." And then she said, "Really, you have 5,000 jumps?" "Yeah." And then you looked over at me and looked at my student and said, and he, and I had to tell my student, I have 46 tandems. Something asinine. I looked at you like, you prick.
Yeah, well.
So, anyways, so you had picked up on my student sitting on my lap from the pilot seat. You had gotten their phone numbers sitting next to me. You'd gotten their phone numbers 3 in front of me, leaning back to just tell my student, good luck at 6,500 feet. I'm thinking, what, Dean, pay attention to your own student. And she'd say, "Do you know him? Can you get his number?" "Yes, I can. Let's go through our skydive again." "Okay, put your head back on my shoulder." And it was so much fun, and I didn't care because I was really stressed out. Tandems were not fun for me. I didn't break anybody's ankle. I never had any injury of a tandem, but I always knew it was coming, right? But so I actually enjoyed the fact that you got a kick out of picking up on other people's tandems. But anyway, so yeah, so a father, son, and mother, and another son had shown up to the drop zone. And I think I was doing the tandem class as well. And father was going, son was turning 18, mom wanted nothing to do with it. And I don't remember if it was me that upsold the tandem, but we had talked her into going, and she said, "Well, if I'm going to go," in this strong French accent, "I want to go with you." And I said, "Oh, okay, well, I'm okay, we'll do that." So we get in the airplane, and she's clingy, as I'm gearing her up, she's clinging on me. And this is a very beautiful, I'm coming up on my early 40s, or excuse me, I'm coming up on 40. She's probably in her, I'd say, late 40s. And she's a very, very good looking French woman.
Sure.
And she's speaking to her husband in French. She's speaking to me in French, and she has to keep correcting herself because she's forgetting that I'm speaking English. And it's very attractive, and she's very good looking, and she's flirting. We're having a great time. And the whole ride to altitude, she's terrified. I keep, letting her know. And by this time, she's completely forgotten about her son and her husband.
Which are in the plane.
She's complete. Yeah, which are in the plane. Now she's just really wants. But women, it's funny. I've never had a woman tell me no. It's always the guys that decide.
Oh, the guys that back out.
Especially like you, the guy with the razors, and he's the gung ho guy.
Guys lose their shit.
So I knew she was going to go skydiving. So I just kept telling her how fun it's going to be and how great it's going to be. And so as we're getting towards the door, I start hearing her make this sound, this kind of a oi, ha, oi, hoi, hoi, and it's a high pitched, really. And she's taking these horrible deep breaths, and I'm telling her, just calm down, slow down. But you're ready to make a skydive, and she's just looking at me like, "Do it," right? So we exit, and as I'm leaving, that sound, it fades away.
Yep.
Geeks the camera has a wonderful time. Pete Galley's the camera flyer, and she's geeking the camera. She has a wonderful time, and then I go to tap tap tap. And nothing. And she's not going to pull the parachute. So I pull the parachute for her. And as the canopy's opening, I can hear that coming back. And she is howling in French. And then I start feeling these body shudders. I mean, she's shuddering. And then it was building up. She'd do and something in French. Just this shudder. And I mean, and it was so loud that, and I kept wanting to say, okay, I need you to put your foot on my foot so I could, but she, wait, wait. It would go again. And this went on for a while. So I got the toggles, I'm flying around, and each one gets a little bit longer and louder. And then finally it's like she's trying to sneeze. She's got one more left. And she tells me this in English, wait, I'm to orgasm. Wait. And then one more just lets it out, and a full body shudder. And I'm thinking, okay, so that's over. Okay, let's go ahead and put your feet on my feet. And then she's just thanking me, and she's trying to reach around to grab my head. She's saying, kiss me. Can you kiss me? Just kiss me on my lips. Kiss me. Oh, I love you. I orgasm. Yeah. No, yeah.
You were there.
I 100%. I believe you.
See?
And I believe you. And so she keeps telling me the whole way down. And so she never flies the canopy, anything. We land. And then Gally immediately realizes something's going on because she's waving her hand in front of her face and she's flushed. And he puts the camera in her face and she yells, I fucking orgasm. And the first thing, and she turns back at me in frame and says, thank you. And you hear me go, no, thank you.
That's awesome.
And then the husband lands right next to us and she has to tell him.
Of course. Oh,
he made me orgasm. Then the son comes in and she sort of explains it to him what just happened. The son thanks me for the skydive. His dad gives me a hug and says, thank you. And like, okay, yeah. Wow. It was the most unnerving, and I'd never, of all the tandems that I had done, there might be one other story you're going to ask me about, but that one caught me out because I'd never had a student have that kind of reaction.
You know exactly the story I'm going to ask you about, because this is the story we're gonna finish off with this one, because this is probably one of my favorites as well. You've had, again, probably the most broken skydiver I ever know to continue skydiving. Oh
yeah,
by far. You've had some bizarre experiences on the ground in the skydiving world, but you also have had the two strangest tandem skydives with women I've ever heard about, that being one of them, a French woman that orgasms all the way to the ground under canopy. But what was the other one that I'm asking about?
And then tells everybody. She walked around the drop zone telling everybody that I gave her an orgasm. And I think she was trying to say she had an orgasm, but the way she was saying it in French was, he gave me an orgasm. And I remember thinking, I didn't touch anything. So I think I know where you're going with your story.
No. Well, the last one, this was, I think, under canopy. You got a very strange request from a...
No, it was actually in the airplane. And that also got caught. It was in the airplane. So it was an elderly woman who got very flirtatious as we were getting towards the airplane.
Well, now, wait.
And she said,
define elderly, because both you and I are getting up there. So what's elderly?
Well, I'm at the time, this is before Marcus had me come do, or thank God I never had to do tandems in Kauai. But I was probably 39, or maybe it was right after I got home. But it was around then. So she's probably mid to late 50s.
Okay. All right. So getting mature.
Right. And an attractive woman, but she let it be known on the way to the aircraft that she had a request. And she the nervousness had faded away, and she had a request, and she was holding my hand on the way to the aircraft, which I thought was kind of a little bit different. Sure. And so as we're climbing in, I sit in her lap, and she says, "Yeah, I have a request." I said, yes, but thinking backflip or whatever, and I'm not going to do any of that stuff, right? So, we get to the part where I say, "Okay, let's run through our skydive really quickly. I'm going to put your head back on my shoulder." And when I do, she says something, and I don't quite hear it. About that time, Matt Stevens is doing video. He spins around to do the first brief. Right. On the way to altitude, puts the camera right in her face, turns it on. And I'm asking her, I didn't hear that. And she says something, again, trying to be
subtle,
discreet. And I didn't hear it again. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. And she yells, I want you to squeeze my fucking nipple as hard as you can. And so there's no like right now or on exit and I look at Matt. who I don't realize has the video rolling, and the look in his face is this is
Priceless.
This is priceless. And she says, "Yeah, it's okay. You can do it. I don't mind. It's hard, and you have to do it hard." And she's trying to grab my hands to show me we'll do a little practice sesh,
A little handles check.
And you see me in the video holding my hands as far away from her as possible, because I don't know what
right.
safety rule that is. And so I convinced her that yes, I will do that. Yes, that's what we will do. And she reminds me a couple more times, and I think that's on video as well. And yeah, we get to the door. She reminds me again. Yep. That's what we're gonna do. And on exit, you see me full squirrel, arms out as far as they can go, and nowhere near touching her. Right. Matt Stevens has got I've never seen a camera fly with a grin, nodding, like do it. And so we went through the whole skydive. Never touched her. We get under canopy. She's not having the French orgasm, but she's swearing to God that was the best nipple pinch she'd ever felt in her entire life. And can you just one more? Give me one more. And I said, no, we got way too much to do now. So you go ahead and take these. No, we plenty. Just do real quickly. No. So grab it. We got to get your feet up here. And I just kept telling her, I got this. We got to do this. We got to get into the pattern. And then we get on the ground, and she starts the same thing, telling people how I had just practically twisted her nipples off and on the exit, and it was the greatest thing she'd ever felt, and it was something that she'd always wanted to experience.
See, I always got those two. I don't know if I mixed those two stories up or I combined them. I think I combined them because I had remembered it wrong, and that it was something about nipples and an orgasm and all this and that, and I didn't realize it was two separate women until we talked about it before. That's even better.
Well, it got a little better. I mean, just really fast. About 3 or 4 weeks went by. It was towards the end of that summer, and I had pulled a really, really good looking younger blonde to do a tandem, and we were doing 4-way training for something, and Neil had walked over and said, "Hey, can you squeeze one in?" I said, "Sure," and trained her up. And then, I always kept my rig on that over by where we had that TV on one of the, it looked like a bench that came out of an airplane, or a seat that came out of an airplane. So I could kind of halfway off the ground to get it on my back. And she walked up and said, "I have a kind of a strange request, and I hear you're the person to ask." And her boyfriend is standing behind her. And she says, "On exit, can you grab and squeeze my nipples as hard as you can?" And you just see me sit back down. The reason why you see me is because when something like that happens and you notice that all the camera flyers are pointing their cameras at you, you realize you're getting geeked.
Right.
So they had set this up, and Colin Bruce had set this up. One of my teammates, he'd said, "Hey, walk over to him and ask him to grab your nipples and squeeze them as hard as they can, and just see what his reaction is." And I'm thinking, how does this happen to me twice? Right. And you see me just slump down on the bench thinking, I put my hand up kind of like, no one's going to believe this. And then the hanger just erupts.
Of course.
She said so. She said something like, "No, my boyfriend's right here. He says it's okay." And he's like, "No, it's okay." And then the hanger erupts. And I'm like, you fuckers.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, if it could happen twice to anybody, it could happen twice to you.
Well, that was my first thinking, was that no one's going to believe me. This one, no one will believe.
No. Well, I would believe it. I totally would believe it. Well, I'll tell you what, we have covered some fucking crazy ground, from burnt scrotum to multiple crazy broken bones to squeezing nipples and French orgasms out the door to jumping off of hangers. And what the fuck have I missed? This has probably been by far the most gruesome, sexist podcast I've done yet.
Well, and you have to realize I lived there for 10 years. We haven't even really scratched the surface.
No, which is why I was thinking and was about to.
We'll have to do a part. We'll have to do a part 2, because there's antics that need to be told. There's antics that
don't need to be told that we have to tell. Yeah. No. You will be a recurring part of this. There's no doubt.
But to everyone listening, I know you all have video of a lot of this stuff. So believe me, some of the stories won't get any more graphic than that.
Well, I think that you need to make a deal.
I have grandkids.
You need to make a deal, and the deal is, for anybody that's got incriminating video of you, if they turn it over to you now, you won't tell the stories about them.
They won't. I've often wondered, what are they doing with I think you made a comment in one of your podcasts and one of your guests said that if he ever got in a fire, he would make sure his kids were okay and then go get his memories.
Yep.
I think you said that you got the same
Yep.
thing. I know that through the course of my life, people are going to run across a video of me and Scott Meeker doing something, of me and doing something to or with a number of hosts of people over the course of the 10 years that we lived there. And some of it was hilarious. Some of it was way too graphic for this day and age with this political climate. And some of it was just downright funny and bonding and interesting. And so, but yeah, no, I wish you well on this podcast. I think it's great that you're doing this, and I hope it gets big. You need to get some sponsors, and even if you're a micro influencer, I think this is great for the sport. I mean, this is what and why Kaleidoscope was such a great team, because we were an elderly group of we were approachable. We were managing stuff on the weekends, and we were a team of young guy all the way up to an old guy who we all had extremely different backgrounds, and we wanted to bring in as many people into the sport.
Sure.
And I think that's what made our team so interesting, is we became such a tight knit group of friends because we had such varying different backgrounds. And like you said, the sport has changed. In some of your podcasts, the tunnel flyers and some of the talent that's coming up still need to remember to have that humble side to bring people in.
For sure. Well, and
maybe not to jump off a hanger, but to definitely participate in this sport.
To mentor and to teach the people that are coming up the hard lessons that we've learned. And this is the only sport I've been in, the only activity I've ever done where I happily learned from other people's mistakes. And to teach people to do that. And the idea behind the podcast has always been just like walking up to the bonfire and you get to listen into a conversation from longtime jumpers that, have been at it for a while, and they're just telling big fish stories and having fun, but learning lessons as well. And that's kind of the whole idea behind it. Talking to older skydivers, talking to newer skydivers. This isn't about trying to get a bunch of badasses. This is about talking, and not even just skydiving, any extreme sports, that you get the opportunity to just climb into somebody's mind and find out what makes them tick and why did they decide to do this. And you already said the one thing literally everybody on my podcast has said: they got into or stayed in skydiving because of the community. I think it is by far the most important part, and probably one of the reasons that so many of us consider ourselves so fucking lucky. I certainly am.
When I moved to LA, and I have never felt homesick. I left home happily, not because of fighting or anything. Just I went to a high school away from my home high school. I had never felt homesick until I moved out of the double wide. It was just time, Sure. Ryan and Candy were getting married. I was taking a job in LA, and I was homesick. And I won't drive to the Bay Area or anywhere without stopping at Skydance.
Sure.
I'll park right where Ray parks.
Sure.
And if when they see me, Manifest will open up their window. You can't park there. Oh, no, I've just got to pay rent, or I got to do a thing. And I'm just stopping to use the restroom. Right. And then I'll come out, and one of the owners, I don't even know who they are, haven't introduced myself. What are you doing? And I'll glance over to see what plane they have, and I'll say, oh, I got the caravan thing. Or I've got your pack thing. Yeah. And then I'll just drive away. And they're probably wondering, who's that fucking prick? We see him about every 3 or 4 weeks, sometimes every other couple of months.
Now they know.
But I miss it so bad. If I just need to decompress, I'll just go park at the drop zone, or I'll just go park over by the double wide. Now just think about shit.
Now
I can set my computer up and work on stuff.
Well, now you're gonna have to set your computer up so you can shoot the shit with me.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I appreciate you asking me to be on it. When you sent me that text saying, "Hey, got a question for you," I thought it had nothing to do with being on the podcast.
Man,
so
man.
I don't know if I even can hold a candle to any of the folks that you've had on.
Again, it's about it's about the experience, and it's about the journey getting there, and then the craziness and the fun stuff, and sometimes the sad stuff that happens when we're living these lives. That's what it's about, man. Well, look, Jim, it's been fucking amazing catching up, and this is not going to be the last time we do it, both on and off the air.
And anytime, but again, it's good to hear and see you and talk to you. And you got to keep this
Oh.
up for the community, because when I first heard it, I thought, what a brilliant idea. And then everyone gets better as your learning curve goes up, and the guests you have get better. And hopefully I'm the one that people just skip over because it's ludicrous.
No.
But you got to keep having on the people that guys like me can live vicariously through. And again, I mean, the swing of emotions that I've had listening to the different people, like the gentleman in the wheelchair, was extremely inspiring.
Yeah, Jarrett's awesome.
Yeah, some of those Moz, crazy funny, right?
Yeah, Moss was...
You got him to sing Queen at the end there. That was
of
awesome.
which he knew one of every 10 words.
You said something like that at the intro. I don't think he knows the words, but he's having fun.
That's what it's about, man.
You know?
All right, brother.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I love you. I miss you. I can't wait to do this again. Awesome. Thank you so much, Jim.
Take care.